If you've just been made redundant or you're at risk of redundancy and you're feeling really overwhelmed and panicked about what steps you should take first, then this video is for you. By the end of this video, you'll be equipped with a few practical steps you can take to help manage your panic in the first days of being made redundant. Hi, if you're new here, my name's Rachel, and this channel is meant to be a platform for me to discuss personal finance, that journey, lifestyle, navigating career. And unfortunately, I was made redundant just before Christmas, and honestly, it was really overwhelming. It was not the best time just before Christmas, and I felt really lost about a lot of different things. I've never been made redundant before, so I didn't really know what steps I should have taken. And so I wanted to share my practical tips with you now I've gone through it myself and what I do differently. If you are made redundant, it's critical to know your rights. You may be eligible for redundancy pay, notice pay, and other things as well. I'll leave a link to the government website which outlines the details of all of these things that you may be eligible for. If you are made redundant due to insolvency, it's equally important to know your rights as it's slightly different. You may be entitled to redundancy pay, statutory notice pay, holiday pay, and I'll mention more about holiday pay on that shortly, so stay tuned. And you may also be entitled to unpaid wages, overtime, or commission. I do plan on making more of an in-depth video about your rights, so if that be something you'd be interested in, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned. The first thing I think that's really important to do before you lose or any of your work access, is to make sure that you have all of your payslips. The reason I say that is because payslips are so important. They can help you with applications for things like claiming benefits, tax returns, securing loans, and it generally just acts as a detailed record of your tax, including any pension contributions, student loan deductions. I didn't do this, so it was a bit of a pain to retrospectively try and gain this. So it isn't a problem if you haven't gotten all your payslips, but I definitely recommend doing it before you lose your access because it's just so much quicker if you can download all the payslips yourself. The company that I was working for went into insolvency, so I had to go through the administrators to gain my payslips, and that was quite a slow process and I didn't get it for quite a while. The next thing I think is important, and this will affect you financially, is to consider your holiday days. Before you leave, make a detailed account of how many days holiday you've taken so far, including when you took them and how long at a time. Just make sure you know exactly when your holidays were taken. The reason I say this is because you've unfortunately been made redundant, your entitlement will change. Now, your entitlement will be prorated to the length of time that you worked in that holiday year. So, for example, if you worked 6 months out of 12 months in that holiday year, but you'd taken 25 days holiday within that 6 months, it is likely that you've taken more holiday than you're entitled to. Money will be deducted from your final salary, so it's really important to know how many days exactly that you have. Or in my case, because I worked up until the 15th of December, so my entitlement was prorated to 24 days of annual leave, not including bank holidays. So it meant that I had, out of the holiday days that I had left to take, had I worked the full year, that was just one less day that I was owed. There is therefore a chance that you've taken more holiday days than you're owed or fewer days than you're owed. And if you've taken too many days, it's good to work out by how many, because then you can work out how much that will affect your final salary. And likewise, if you've taken too few days, it's important to know how much you're owed so that you can make sure that you're being paid the correct amount. For standard redundancy, it's paid out by the employer if you're owed holiday days. And in cases of insolvency, you have to go through a separate process and apply through the redundancy payment office. And usually you have a case reference number that you're given from the administrators, and you use that to apply for holiday pay and any notice pay. In my experience, I knew roughly how many days I'd taken, but I didn't know exactly. And I also found working out what my prorated entitlement was really confusing, especially with bank holidays. So let me know in the comments if this is something that you've encountered, whether you think that process is easy, because I ended up calling the ACAS helpline, which I definitely recommend. It is there for support for people who are going through any employment issues. But likewise, it would have been nice if it was a little bit more straightforward. So the in-depth video that I was talking about, I was thinking about going through that process of how to actually apply for redundancy pay through the Redundancy Payments Office, or the RPO. So definitely like and give a comment if you think that'd be useful. The last thing that I'd recommend doing before you leave is to download your training certificates. This is incredibly important for updating your CV and your LinkedIn, and it's so much easier if you just do it yourself before you leave, or even better, do it as you go along in your employment. That way, when you do leave through because of redundancy, it doesn't mean that you have to retrospectively try and gain them. In my case, I didn't do that, or in my head I was like, oh, I probably won't need that, but you just never know. So I think it's always best to just gain everything you possibly can. When I was made redundant, I was quite anxious and I was overwhelmed, and so I wasn't really thinking clearly. But yeah, in the end, I had to go to my old HR and kindly asked if they could send me the training certificates that I had gained with them. So those are my recommendation, and I'll just summarise for you now. So the first is critical, and that is to know your rights. Second is to make sure you download all your payslips before you lose access. Third is to make sure you keep a track of what holiday days you've taken and what days you might be owed or that you owe. And then lastly is to make sure you download any training certificates that you may have. Now, there are many more actions that you can take, but these are just the simple things that I think I wish I'd done before I lost access. If you'd be interested in knowing more, I can do a follow-up video on this. I'm really sorry that you've been made redundant or soon to be made redundant. It's never a nice feeling, and I just wanted to say that it is okay to give yourself a few days to be upset about it. We are only human, we have emotions, and you can't just always kind of be okay. So I think it's important to take that time, take the weekend to kind of grieve and be upset. But I also think it's important to not dwell on it too long, that it inhibits your progress. So I think you can give yourself that time to be upset. Don't pressurize yourself to get back on the bandwagon when you don't have that emotional capacity. That being said, I do think it's important to not take too much time being upset about it, as that will hold you back on searching for the next opportunity. I really hope this helped. As mentioned, I am planning on doing more in-depth video, but it'd be really great if you could let me know if that's something you're interested in. Likewise, I'm also thinking about potentially doing a budget of my redundancy payment and how I budget job seekers allowance. So if you'd be interested, let me know in the comments. Thank you very much and have a good week.